Hardcore Minecraft is the ultimate challenge for every Minecraft player. You have one life, and if you mess up, your world is gone forever. I have tried many times before, but my aggressive playstyle and very dumb decision making have led to my death every single time. This time though, was going to be much different. This time I had a very different feeling. I knew that I would succeed. The beginning days of my hardcore experience were the exact same as everybody else's. The first thing I did was gathered some seeds so I could plant, and then I went ahead and gathered some wood, created some farmland, and started making my base in the side of a mountain. This time I wanted to make sure everything was absolutely perfect, so I got food ready and I got a base ready all within the first day so that I knew I would be completely safe. I played as fast as I could, and I went and I gathered resources and also built my base. I gathered wood, dirt, coal, everything that you could need, even some beef so that I would stay fed while my crops grew. I then began setting up my base inside of this mountain, putting barrels around so that I would have plenty of storage, and also getting shield, some armor, and tools ready so that I could fight all the dangerous mobs that were out there. My first real experience with mobs came with zombies, and of course, a baby zombie. This was definitely my first challenge in hardcore Minecraft. Baby zombies, as we know, are lethal to hardcore players, but I managed to dispatch of all these mobs without too much difficulty. Not too long after, a creeper took me down to the closest I became to dying in the entire series. I was all the way down to half a heart, but because I had a lot of food in me, I revived very quickly. Pretty soon after, I was able to actually find a mob spawner, which I knew I could use later on to farm XP and maybe even copper. I also stumbled upon multiple patches of diamonds while mining so that I could start making better tools. Unfortunately though, my iron pick broke before I was able to mine the last piece, and I had to go and find more iron. Then I began collecting obsidian. Not only would I need another portal, but also an enchanting table, so I went ahead and collected 14 and then tried out my luck with the nether. Unfortunately, I got the worst possible nether spawn possible and spawned in the middle of a soul sand valley. Absolutely nothing was around for hundreds of blocks. There was no other nether biomes, and I knew this was definitely going to be a tough time in the nether. So I hopped back into the overworld and decided to do some exploring there. I knew I needed a village so that I could get some villager trading going and possibly even an iron farm. Fortunately, not too far to the east of my base, I was able to find a village. This village was very close to my base, so I knew it would be very easy to actually do everything that I needed with these villagers. After raiding the village, I returned back to my base area, and next to my farm, I built up a fence where I would put all my cows that I would need for leather. I had already gained a lot of experience so far in this world, much of it from mining, but a few levels from mobs as well. I knew that it wouldn't be too long before I could start enchanting, so I needed to get my leather up so that I actually could make all the bookshelves I would need for good enchantments. I managed to lure a total of 6 cows back to my base, and I immediately started breeding them so that I would have as much leather as I would need very soon. Next up, I began to collect as much wood as I could possibly find, farming all the trees in the surrounding area. Of course, I would go ahead and replant them because I still wanted the beautiful jungle surrounding my base. My storage area was quickly beginning to fill up, and I knew it wouldn't be too long before I had to upgrade so that I could fit everything I was actually gaining. I continued breeding my cows until I had absolutely plenty of leather, and then I began working on my enchantment room. Before even constructing my starter house, I knew that I wanted my enchantment room ready, and I had a great idea in mind for it. I found this picture while doing some research and wanted to recreate something very similar to it in my own jungle, so I began work as my first build project in my hardcore world. Of course, I knew I still needed a starter home, but I figured that getting enchantments, weapons, and armor was more important to actually survive in the long run of my hardcore series. After a lot of detail work, I finally managed to finish this design, and I think it turned out looking amazing. Of course, there's still a little bit of work to do on this right side here to cover up that water, but I plan to use it later on to actually flow underneath the starter house that will be down further from this enchantment room. The first things I decided to enchant were a pickaxe and a chest plate. These, I figured, were the best way to acquire more diamonds and to give myself the best protection. Fortunately, I got a Prot 3, Unbreaking 3 chestplate and an Efficiency 4 pickaxe. While I really wanted Fortune 3, Efficiency 4 was fine for now. So I decided to hop back into the nether and mine my way away from the portal. I accidentally ran into some ancient debris, which was a very happy accident and allowed me to get my first pieces of ancient debris. Only 2 pieces though, so not even enough for a full netherite ingot yet. I finally found a Crimson Forest biome, and after dealing a little bit with some mobs there, I explored around, found some quartz, but was unfortunately not able to find a nether fortress yet. It was seemingly impossible to find a nether fortress in this world. I decided to explore a bit further away from my home in the overworld so that I could create another nether portal and hopefully find a nether fortress so that I could collect not only blaze but wither skeleton skulls. Unfortunately, I didn't travel as far as I thought I had, and I still ended up in the same Soul Sand Valley. Fortunately though, I was able to actually find a bastion not too far from here. Unfortunately, however, I decided it was still way too early game for me to deal with any brutes, so I ran from the bastion and kept exploring the nether. After days of exploring the nether, I still was not able to find a fortress, so I returned to the overworld and decided to start working on my starter home. I also had an idea in mind for what I want to actually do for my starter home, but this was much more of a concept idea, and it was definitely going to take a lot of detail work on my end to make it look good. The idea would be to create this beautiful house and then build the forest around it, and I also decided to use the water from the enchantment area to actually run the river beneath my home. After doing some more work on the starter base, I realized that I really wanted to add some spruce wood into this, and to do that I would have to go on an adventure because so far there was no biomes that contained spruce wood anywhere near me. So I set out onto the ocean and ran up upon a desert temple very quickly after leaving my base. After looting the chest, I managed to get a few more golden apples, and then I continued my journey to find spruce wood. I knew that all I had to do was get a couple logs and some saplings, and then I could start farming them myself right near my base. I collected a few trees worth of logs and saplings, and then I went on my way back home. On the way home, I actually managed to find a dog, and funnily enough had 36 bones on me, so I was able to tame it and bring it with me. Unfortunately, I hadn't found any name tags yet, so I wasn't able to name him officially, but I did see that he was actually already killing sheep around the area. I threw him back in my boat, and then we sailed off back towards my home. The spruce wood was definitely a great addition to the base, and I knew it would make all of this look much better. I then decided that I should go into the nether and try to find a nether fortress again. So I figured the best way to do that would be to actually find a strider and ride it around all the lakes of lava until I actually happened upon one of these fortresses. I dangerously bridged out onto the lava, and then I saddled up on one of these striders and began riding him around the entire nether. I spent an entire 30 minutes riding him around the nether until I actually managed to find a fortress. I knew that this nether fortress was so far away that I was likely to never come back to it, so I decided to get everything that I needed while I was here. I fought blazes, ghasts, and wither skeletons alike until I had enough blaze rods and wither skeleton skulls that I knew I could return home. Speaking of home, the design was not going well so far for my home. I did not like the combination of jungle wood, spruce, and deep slate that I was getting, so I decided to keep working until I had exactly what I wanted. The only thing I knew is that I wanted this house built by the time the 100-day mark came up, and I also wanted to have a wither boss beat and the dragon beat as well, so I had a lot of work ahead of me. I figured why not get the entire outline of this base actually built, and then I could worry about all the details and things like that after, but for the time being I could at least put my storage room and everything that I needed inside of this base, since room was rapidly running out inside of my hole. A lot of work still needed to be done on this home, but since it was day 70 I knew that I had to get to work on fighting these bosses as well. So I decided to fight the wither the only way I truly know how, and that is by digging a strip mine and then fighting it inside of that mine. This, however, became slightly more difficult because the wither actually managed to get its way into a surrounding cave system and made it much harder to fight. Fortunately though, I was able to persevere, and I took down the wither with the help of a couple golden apples. I had acquired my first nether star, and a beacon was well on the way. I built the beacon up very close to my home in between my actual starter hull and the starter base I was working on, and unfortunately I did not have enough iron, gold, or any other materials to make a full beacon, but I was able to make a partial beacon and figured I could get the surrounding materials to make it a full beacon. The house then finally started to see some improvements. I started to actually like the design I was getting towards, but I knew that a lot more details had to go into it to make it look very good. So I decided to add some glass panes instead of the windows that I was using, and that made it look a bit better, but I knew it needed some more depth and things like that. I added in some storage on the bottom floor of the house, some furnaces, things like that, so that I could start actually living in this house. I figured that since I already had the Wither beat and I was only on about day 75, I could put in a lot of time into actually working on this house and still have plenty of time to defeat the dragon later on. Since I had to wait until night to get ender pearls, I decided I could spend all the days up until day 100 either working on the house or going to find the ender portal. After changing up a bit of the structure and adding some jungle logs into the actual interior of the build, I was really starting to like the inside. Definitely needed to add a lot more into the upstairs since I hadn't even put down a bed or chest or anything in there yet. But as I was working on the house, night fell and I knew it was time to not only get some XP, but also try to get some ender pearls as well. So I headed out into the plains area next to my jungle and decided to fight some mobs and try to get some ender pearls. I had set up a spot inside my base that was 2 blocks tall so that endermen couldn't get me, and I figured the best way to fight them would be to look at them and then run back to my base. Unfortunately, I really never expected what happened next. Huge mistakes had been made and I didn't obey the safety precautions that I had set up for myself, so unfortunately I lost my life on day 77. Fortunately, however, all was not lost. My will for hardcore Minecraft was still strong, and I knew that by creating a new world I would be able to survive 100 days and much longer. All I needed was a lot of patience and to make sure that I played